This is Brad Montgomery. Welcome to the Successful, Interesting, and Awesome podcast where I interview people who are, wait for it, successful, interesting, and awesome. Or at least one of those three. Hey everybody, it's Brad Montgomery. Welcome to the podcast called Successful, Interesting, and Awesome. I wanted to let you know why I picked this next guest. I'm kind of on the hunt lately for guests who are not only successful, interesting, and awesome, which is the name of the podcast, but also I'm really interested in people that are different from me in all the best ways. And because they're different from me, they can teach me things that I feel like I really need to know. And this woman named Lisa, she calls herself Lisa, your everyday gay, which just made me giggle when I saw that typed out. It cracked me up. But she's an inclusivity and diversity expert. She is gay, and she has a lot to say about this issue. And I'll bet, like me, you have people in your life who are homosexual, and you just want to know more. And if you're, like me, straight, you don't know as much as maybe you'd like to know. And so I was really pumped when Lisa said yes to being on the podcast. And I learned a lot. And I think just these types of conversation are what's going to help. Allow me to explain. It feels to all of us that America is divided right now. We can't agree on who to vote for, on why it's hot outside. We can't agree on why there's COVID. We can't agree on if there is COVID. It feels like we're just fighting over everything. And I'm convinced that if we're able just to find people and talk to people one-on-one, if we're able to focus on the people in front of us, that will lead to solutions for some of the bigger problems. It's just really hard to have a bunch of rhetoric and say mean things about somebody that you just had a beer with, right? It's just really hard to be friendly with somebody and then yell at them because of something they believe. So my goal is just better understanding about the world. But, also I don't mind telling you, I'm learning a lot about myself and I'm learning a lot about other people. And today you get to learn with me. So here comes the podcast. I just know you're going to enjoy it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Thanks for being here. Hey everybody, it's Brad Montgomery. Oh, it's good to see you. You're looking good. Are you feeling okay? Are you washing your hands? I also am excited because I have a fantastic guest. I cannot wait to meet this woman more. I know quite a bit about her, but I don't know her that well. So we're going to meet her together, and I've been really looking forward to this. But the other thing that's big in our world right now is, as we record this, the Delta variant is all over the front page of the news. And that makes me nervous for a lot of stuff. One, I'm a human on the planet, and so that makes me a little tense. But also, just like March 2020, when my phone was ringing constantly with cancellations, I got 2 big conferences canceled yesterday, another big conference canceled the day before. There's a couple more I'm looking at thinking, So I'm wondering, are we really in this again? So to that end, I'll do my part. I'm going to stay upbeat and cheery. I promise. But what I'm hoping you guys will do is get that shot, for crying out loud. Go get poked. Wash your hands, wear your mask. All right, there. I'm now getting off my soapbox. Let's talk about Lisa K. She is our ally. Get this. Lisa calls herself Lisa K. and your everyday gay, which I cannot wait to ask her what the heck she means by that. Please welcome my new friend, Lisa. Lisa, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me. I am Lisa K, your everyday gay. The easiest way I can explain it is I go to the grocery store just like you, or if you get your groceries delivered, and I also pick up dog poop just like everybody else. That's it. Lisa K, your everyday gay.
Well, I think I know where you're going with this. 20 years ago, I went to go see one of my buddies sing in I can't remember if it was gay women or just LGBTQ or whatever, choir. And the funniest lyric in this song they wrote was, the only time there will be equality for homosexuals is when everybody knows a really boring gay person. Is that what you're kind of going for? Like, I'm not so flamboyant. Like, it's just, I'm your neighbor.
I am your neighbor. That is what I'm going for. That is, neighbor is the exact word for it. Because I'm not boring by any stretch. What I started doing is when I was in education, I just wanted to be the best school counselor I could, who, by the way, was gay. And so it was using humor. It was just, you talked about poke and getting the vaccine. And, I would poke fun at myself first so that it would lower the barriers and it'd be an easier conversation for someone to say, I've always wondered. So I could be your gay Google too.
What does that mean, gay Google?
You have a question? Just ask Lisa K, your everyday gay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to need my gay Google. So, heck yeah. All right. Well, let's start at the beginning. So I get the formative part of your adult career started at middle school counseling. Do I have that right?
That is correct. Yep.
So before we start the first day of that job, were you already out?
No, great question. So I actually, before that, I was a camp director for 20 years for the YMCA and Girl Scouts, and kind of in the closet for both of those. And then going into school counseling in around Madison, Wisconsin, I didn't come out until I was 40 years old. And I had a student who was 12 years old, seventh grader, come into my office and tell me that it was easier pretending to be gay or be a boy, pretending easier to be a boy than it was to be gay. And so I had all this privilege. I was afraid of getting fired. And I had this 12-year-old student, bless their heart, who told me their truth. And I was afraid that I would get fired. I came home, talked to my wife, said I need to come out to the students. She said, that's okay. It doesn't matter if you get fired. Went to school the next day, thanked the student for their courage, told the student that I was gay, and the student said, no, duh, Miss Koenecke, we all know that. So it was trial and error, and I think that my mission, being the inclusion ally, is to be able to say, um, it's okay, be who you are, and honoring the people who have come before me, and then trying to make the path easier for those who are yet to come out.
Well, I have two people in my life who are not out, and I think people like you are heroes. So well done, you. What happened at school? Did you get fired?
I didn't get fired, but I will tell you that it was very because I had already made the inroads with being a phenomenal school counselor and an advocate for everyone. It was just one of those other things, and I say things in quotation marks for you just listening, that made me complete. And then it allowed me to be an even better advocate because I was comfortable in my skin. And then, with the help of the parents and some families, we actually changed some of our school policies and became more inclusionary for any and all students. And I love your Wisconsin Badger coffee mug that you are drinking out of, by the way. And so, by me being a vanguard, should I say, I think it was okay. It wasn't, oh, this is not going to go well. So just, again, blazing the trail for those who need it.
There's so many questions I have in there. All right, so you're married at age 40, so you're out to some people, obviously. You're
Yep.
like your people who are closest to you know.
Yep.
I,
So I had a sphere of influence. And with that, the other thing is that I have my family of origin, not my family of choice, but the family I was born into. The females in my family accepted me and the males did not to this day. So I am disowned from my family. Lots and lots of other stories that I could go into. We don't have to do that right now. However, I think that it made me stronger. I sometimes I feel like the rainbow phoenix rising up from the ashes to be able to live my purpose, which is saving lives. And that's what it is about. If I can help you, Brad, the white suburban guy who has power and privilege to know what to say, know what not to say, we might save a life together. That, my friend, is better than anything I could ever have asked for. And again, because my family doesn't, well, half of my family doesn't accept me, then it makes me go to my family of choice. Lots of friends, lots of families um,
Mm.
that are cool with it.
Family of origin versus family of choice. So, if don't answer this if it's too personal, but how did that manifest? What does it look like when you say the men in your family were not okay
Yep.
with this?
Yep, absolutely. So I'll start with my brother. So my brother's 8 years older than I am. And it was Friday the 13th, 1997. I can't make this up. I was a camp director, got a phone call from my mom that my 6-month-old nephew was killed by the family dog.
Oh,
So I drove 2.5 hours home to help clean things up, etc. Walk in, and my brother says to me, not, "Hey, I'm glad you're here." He says, "There's a vicious rumor going around." I was like, "What?" I didn't know if it was about the dog or what. He said that you're gay. And I said, "Yeah, I am." He said, "You're going to hell. You will never see any children of mine, and this is your fault." So that's one example of my advocacy. Now, we shared
oh,
some expletives back and forth, but, and again, and I share this story not as, I have a master's in counseling. So not as a woe is me story, but it's, wow, that really happened. And then real quickly, my mom died when, in 2014, and I had been together with my wife for 11 years. My sister again had to call and say I'm just the messenger because my wife was not welcome at my mother's funeral, the visitation, the ceremony, the cemetery, or anything. So I had to go, as you know, that was the day before my 45th birthday. So here I am, a white woman of privilege, cisgender, which means I was born female, still identify as female. Again, person of privilege, had to go because of the misogyny and just backwards attitudes of my family. So those are two examples. That's it right there as to why I do what I do. I present around the country, wrote a book, did a TED Talk, etc., so that no one else has to be afraid of their families or anything. So there you go, Brad. That's
yeah.
why.
But those, I'm so glad you told us the details on those because it's really hard not to feel that. That wasn't just a little polite email saying, "Oh, by the way," that was in your face. Ouch.
Yeah. But again, lots of counseling, lots of therapy, big fan of that. And honestly, it helps to tell my story. So thank you for having this as an avenue for me, because again, if somebody hears this story, maybe they have the big one right now where there are more children who are transitioning to transgender,
Yep.
and homeless youth of color are the highest number of homeless youth because of their LGBT status. And if a
Wait.
parent
Say that
can,
again. Youths of color are the.
yeah,
Say
so
that again.
queer youth of color. So of the LGBT youth who are homeless, which a lot are, maybe 45% of the LGBT youth are homeless. 25 roughly percent of that population are identified as Latin or Latinx, and over 45% identify as Black African American. So queer youth of color.
Did you just say 45% of
Of the
LGBTQ
homeless,
teens?
of the homeless LGBT youth identify as Black or African American.
Oh wait, but wait, I'm back. I'm still. My mind just blew up even before you got there. You said the amount of LGBTQ homeless kids is high.
Yeah, it's almost, I would say it's almost close to 50% of youth who are LGBT are homeless. Now, as I'm saying that off the top of my head, I might be wrong, so don't fact check me on that. I just did a video this morning for educators. I do 2 minutes, 2 minute tips, and go to transstudenteducationresource.com. There you go. That's where that came from. So, but needless to say, a lot of the youth who come out at home get kicked out. My sister told me I was gay when I was 25 because I didn't know it was an option when I was younger. So I know there's so much wrapped up in this little bundle right here,
Lisa,
Brad.
Lisa, we have to get to your current work, but
Yeah.
you keep dropping these little grenades. We gotta talk to him. What? When you were 25, you didn't know gay was an option?
Nope. So I grew up in, I'll say it, Reedsburg, Wisconsin. The only difference, you were Lutheran or you're Catholic. I was raised Lutheran, forbidden to date a Catholic boy, but they didn't say anything about a Catholic girl. No. And so, yeah, had no idea. It was Thanksgiving. I was 25 years old. I had just come back from Washington, D.C., and I was talking about how I couldn't find any boys I liked to date. My sister looked at me. She's 10 years older than I am, leaned forward and said, "Well, Lise, it's because you're gay. Please pass the carrots."
And
There you go.
what happened in your head then?
I started bawling. Well, I
Because
passed the carrots.
uh,
Yeah.
had you dated women up to that point? Okay, so it just wasn't an option. It wasn't in your menu.
No, but I hung out with all of the female athletes in college and high school. I was a camp counselor, a camp director. It was kumbaya. It was okay to hold hands and be huggy, lovey-dovey and all that stuff. But as for moving forward, no, not permitted in my family.
Oh, honey. How long did
Yeah.
it take you to get over that gut punch? So you're 25, your sister says, "Well, honey, you're gay." That probably
I
wasn't
think
an instant recovery.
No, it wasn't. That's a great question. I think it took me about 2 years to be able to say, okay, if I really want to be happy, then this is what I'll give it a shot. And if not, I'll just go live in the woods and be a camp director. That was really my thought. I was like, I will just give up on people.
So if I'm doing the math right, Lisa, you kind of came out to yourself then fully at age 27.
Yep. That's the story. Well done. Well played.
That just speaks, I think it's so. Let me tell you a story. Uh,
Hooray.
I belong to a pretty lefty church, and at youth group one day, my three kids went, and the guest for youth group was two women who had been married for 20 years or something like that, and super stable, and they were just kind of talking about their history, and I don't know what they said. I wasn't there, but one of the many things they said was, "Oh, it's much better now than it was when we first started dating." And my kids came out of there saying, "Well, there's no problem anymore." It kind of reminded me in third grade when they said, "Hey, Brad, there was racism, and then Martin Luther King came and fixed it, and now there's not." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And so I remember kind of having a little angst, thinking, "Oh, you kids have no idea. They're saying it's better, but they're not saying it's perfect." And having you tell
True.
these stories that are very recent history, I think it's
It, it,
important.
it is important, and I will tell you, I think that it's a generational thing too, to be able to say that, I use the term gay instead of lesbian. And for people, so I'm a Gen Xer, I'm 52 at the current time of this right now. And folks who are older than me, they may not even talk about being old, and they just have a roommate. And so my generation started talking about it, but still I was afraid to come out at work. The generations one and two generations behind me, they're all about it. They're like, there is no issue. Middle and high school, more kids are coming out as trans and non-binary and queer and accepted. And so it is the younger youth who are now teaching the adults, here's what my pronouns are. Here's what it should look like. And that's where I'm now with my peers, dear Gen X, you know, everyone else, here's what we need to know to keep these kids alive. So it has gotten better for certain situations, for certain populations, and for some, it's still a struggle.
Well, yeah, and also geography plays a big role too, right?
Oh my gosh, 100%. Yep. That's why I live in Madison, Wisconsin. It's a wonderful bubble for my wife and I.
All right. So we're going through the story that is Lisa.
Yeah.
So here we are, a middle school counselor. It sounds to me, you kind of hinted there that once you came out, you were able to make much greater change. And my gut tells me that's really where the power that is Lisa started to develop. Can you tell us about that?
Absolutely. And so I can remember it was 2013, and I wanted to become president of the Wisconsin School Counselor Association. And I would have been the first out president. And so this was 8 years ago. And I was nervous that people wouldn't vote for me because I might have said that I have a wife or that I was gay. And by me being out, it gave so much more freedom to everyone else, whether it was ability or language or whatever. It kind of opened up the equity doors, dare I say, for different conversations. Let's talk about the not just white middle class female school counselors. Let's talk about lots of different things. And then I also served on our national board of directors for the American School Counselor Association, and was the first person who as a female, wore a tuxedo to one of our big events. So again, in the gender non-conforming side of things, and not to be a jerk, not, I don't need everyone to go to a pride parade. I don't, well, I do have lots of rainbow things, but I don't have to be in your face. That's where the everyday gay comes from. It's like, I'm fun. Let's sit down. Let's have a drink. Tell me about, you got things going on in your family. I know you do, my friend. And so do I. And, how do we learn from those things instead of being a victim to being resilient? And so, yeah, I did have friends who encouraged me and have supported me throughout all sorts of things.
Well, it strikes me as ironic. It sounds like it went well, right? You're being accepted by your peers, but one, I understand the nerves, and two, it's ironic that here you are in this profession where many of the kids who are coming to you have issues that you're literally an expert in, and yet some people, I'm guessing, were pretty uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, and going back to geography, and whether it was, a lot of it had to do with rural areas. And I've actually spoken in 42 states and Canada on these issues about being inclusive, diversity, equity, and a lot of LGBT. And I will tell you that, just like you said, of the timing of, is it getting better? Is it not getting better? There are still some states where I'm nervous to present in, even though I know that there are gay kids there. As well as even in the state of Wisconsin, going back to rural versus suburban versus urban. And it's so fascinating to me how we as the older generation who are making the decisions are afraid of a kid who, fill in the blank, whether they're gay or not, is just different from what we grew up with. So I just want to break down those barriers and say, we've all got our stuff.
No, I don't have any stuff.
No,
Okay, yeah,
no,
I got a
not at
lot of
all.
stuff. I have lots. All right, so 14 years as a counselor, where were you in that career when you came out?
Year 4. So it was my second year as a middle school counselor. So I had 2 years in as a high school counselor, thinking I would be a high school counselor the rest of my life. Didn't happen. Then went to the middle school and absolutely loved it.
Hmm.
And then by being a school counselor, I had state leadership, I had national leadership, and now I am a professor, and I am training the next generation of school counselors. So awesome.
I didn't see that on your website that you're a professor. Congratulations.
Thanks. I need to change my website, so anybody out there who likes, funny people and wants to help me, that would be wonderful. No, so training the next generation of school counselors so that they have the tools in their toolbox to welcome any and all.
And is that the primary focus of your business now? Because I know 42 countries, Canada, you're speaking to a very specific niched audience, right? You're speaking to counselors?
They're, to be honest, they're my favorite. So yes, and I've keynoted a lot of school counseling conferences and have some coming up. Fingers crossed that they don't get canceled. I think that I'm all about nonprofits. I'm all about small business. Sure, corporate is wonderful. I like to give free resources, tools, and tips to organizations and companies that maybe can't afford anything. And so again, education to me is one of the most important places to have these discussions so that we can do prevention, because kids know by the time sometimes between ages 3 and 5, and they start expressing gender differences by age 7. And so for those people in elementary level who don't think that we need to talk about these things, we do. And we just need to let kids be themselves and to feel safe. And sometimes, Brad, it's not even just the kids. It might be a family member. It might be a sibling. It might be a parent who is struggling with some of these issues. So again, my niche is, how do I help you have the conversation so that you don't, at the very, very top of the show, you said you don't want to mess up and you don't want to say the wrong thing. And that's why I'm here. I'm like, yeah. And if you get it wrong, you just say, I'm sorry. I mess up sometimes too. So we can move forward with that. But I love talking to groups who want to learn more.
I think we need you. That fear, forget about you. Let's talk about me. All right.
Yes.
You and I earn our living talking in front of groups. And my fear, Lisa, is massive that I will on stage use a pronoun incorrectly or somehow just be insulting with language and not even know it. Like, I can't even describe the level of anxiety that is.
And I don't want you to have that. And I appreciate the fact that you are actually voicing that. But when it's kind of like, I don't want to be an IRS audit agent. My apologies to anyone in the tax world out there. With myself, my mentor Jess Pettit that we talked about as well. We're just here to all learn together. And if it's an oops, it's an oops. And again, it is the fact that you want to learn and you're going to try. That is over half of the battle. And I think that it's important, Brad, to know that these conversations, again, there's some progressive areas that are talking about this and some that aren't. And so, like it or not, the gays are everywhere. And I think that it's important for businesses, right? The groups that we speak to, the groups that hire us, or whatever it might be, even a credit union that you might walk into, are open and affirming. So that if anyone walks in, they have facial hair and they're wearing a dress, that it's not gasp, but it's like, welcome.
Okay, let's talk real questions with Lisa, your everyday gay.
Yeah.
Another story. My youngest works in a Starbucks, and it's all drive-through, which just means they're in a very smushy building. And the numbers are crazy in that tiny little pool. In that, I think there's only 1 or 2 straight kids, and everyone else is some variation of not straight. And my daughter is a rock star in that she's able to use the correct pronouns without a blink and whatever, and it's just not really news to her. And I picked her up one day, and there's this person who clearly is in a woman's body and has a traditional woman's haircut, and and it's a he. And Paige, my daughter, is just like so matter of fact about it. And what I'm kind of hinting at is for me is like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm intellectually there, but it's still like, okay, but my head kind of is struggling here. Did that happen to you at all?
Oh,
Meaning
yeah, that was.
you see the dude with the beard and the dress in the bank. Do you, yeah, I know you're going to say welcome, but do you also go like, oh, golly, wow.
Well, and that was me. I mean, that was me growing up, so that I didn't like wearing dresses. I had a pink bedroom, and they would buy me Barbies that I didn't play with because I would go to the neighbors and I would play with the GI Joe and the tractors. And so innately it was already in me. So to answer your question, do I take a look at that? Yeah, absolutely. And please also know that I'm a diversity and inclusion speaker, and I've got a lot of training in that. So I am rewiring my own brain. And again, and I think, Brad, to how your daughter so flawlessly can go through that, it is a generational thing. And I'm taken back to drinking fountains. I call them bubblers. And if they were the signs back in the civil rights movement, right, for whites only, and it's like, it's water. So the fear that people had, and biracial marriages, and that kind of thing. And so I think that it is, the more that you see it and hear about it, you, Brad, and your sphere of influence, in my opinion, I think the more commonplace that it's going to be for those of you, as you are, who want to be kind. And that's all it comes down to. You don't have to accept or anything, just be kind. If you don't know what to say, just smile, or just don't pull out a gun. That's all we're asking.
Well, that's worth underlining. It's just all about wanting to be kind. And also
Yeah.
don't bring a gun. That's
Yeah.
maybe we should start with that too. It's funny because
Yeah.
I was arguing with a really good friend of mine. I have a very close friend who's very conservative, and I'm not. And so we argue about everything. But he's very precious to me because he's one of those people that we can have those conversations. And we were talking about language and pronouns, and my argument was similar, which makes me so proud that you just said just be kind. But it was, dude, you would never be insulting. You would never say these absolutely like words that we know are not like the word fag. You would never use that
Right.
because it's hurtful. So can't you just expand that concept and not say these other things or change pronouns just because you're trying not to be a jerk? And somehow that there was a disconnect there.
And there is a disconnect, and there are disconnects with, it's called unconscious bias. These are the things that we are brought up to believe, because when a baby is born, a baby is not born to hate. And so it is that how they are nurtured through that experience. And it goes into, at first it was, gender rights. Women couldn't vote, right? And then we talk about race, and now we're talking about LGBT issues. We're also going to be talking about neurodivergency when it comes to friends who are living on the autism spectrum, and ability and veteran status. I mean, there are so many different things that come in that if I am a white person of privilege, especially a male white person of privilege, and I've never had to deal with any of these things. What do you mean that I am privileged? I've had those conversations, and it's just like, you haven't had the same barriers that other people have had. And so it is a long conversation, and you have to decide with whom you want to have those fights and those conversations, as to where I've given up on the men in my family.
Do they know that?
Oh yeah.
Ouch. All right. So, yeah, that pain, I just can't imagine. When you're speaking, so you're hired, someone calls you up and says, Lisa, we need you. We need a big dose of you. Um, what are you talking about? Like, because I think we're skirting all around it, but like, what's your message? I know we're close.
Um, Yep. It comes down to I have 3 ways to help you improve your diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Show that you're an ally, shift mindsets and perceptions, and number 3, I'm going to help you shape your policies.
Show, what was the second one?
Shift mindsets and perceptions,
Oh,
and then shape some policies.
all right. I'm all in. I can't imagine an organization who doesn't need that.
Mm-hmm.
How
And
do you
that's what
go?
my book is all about.
Oh, nice. What's the name of your book?
Be an inclusion ally, the ABCs of LGBTQ plus.
I love that. The ABCs of LGBTQ plus. Oh, look at that. Oh, I love the cover too. All right, be an inclusive ally.
Yep.
Look that up on Amazon. Here's my. I'm going to try to ask a question and not insult you, but I'm super curious about it. I've been a speaker a long time, and generally speaking, for years when I heard diversity speaker, I thought boring, and the ones I saw were boring. And then I think that you have an unearned like bias. People tend to think inclusion and diversity speakers are going to come and lecture them and tell them they're doing everything wrong. I don't sense any of that for you, but I sense there's probably that obstacle. How do you get your clients to understand this is not what you are?
Just having the first conversation, and if it is a video that I give them, if it's a testimonial from someone, and I think the other thing, Brad, and that's a wonderful question that you ask, is I might not be the right person for your organization. I am fun, I am energetic, I don't shame, and I also want people who will join me in this journey, right? And so I don't want it to be a check the box, we're done, from HR says we have to do the DEI stuff, let's hire this person. But you're right, there are barriers out there when people hear diversity, and then I'm this white lady with short hair who doesn't wear makeup. What?
Oh, they're expecting a person of color. Is that what you're saying?
I'm
Oh,
nodding to those of you out there listening. Yes. Um, Perhaps, and I think that that's bigger organizations will hire, someone to fit that bill so that they can say, look, literally, here's our diversity. And that's okay.
one of the things that strikes me about you, and you mentioned her, Jess Pettit was a guest on the show. That it seems so kind and generous, but honestly helpful too. That both of your languages, like you're very generous in trying to make other people feel good, which doesn't seem like it should be your job, but it's pretty nice. Like you're making sure, Brad, you don't have to feel guilty. If you make a mistake, we'll fix it. And same with Jess. Does that get tiring? Like having to constantly hold the hands of people that are not in the that don't know as much as you.
What a wonderful question. At times, yes. And I think because of my privilege of age and experience, I might go about it in different ways. If there is a CEO or someone who wants to hire me, whatever, who is completely asking a whole lot of questions that are throwing up red flags to me, I'm going to be like, nope. I don't necessarily say this, but it's like, you're not ready. And that's why it might be, I'm trying out little videos, and it might be that someone else in their organization needs to be in their ear saying, you know what, she's really funny, here's her TED talk, here's her book. And I think that those are the 2 things that Jess and I have going for us. Now, she's way funnier than I am. However, it's the approachability. And when I talk about what my results are, I want you to shift how you think. That's what I want you to do, so that hey, I see this person, I don't know what to say, so I won't say anything, and that's okay.
Oh, what do you mean it's okay to not say anything?
rather than saying something mean or derogatory,
Oh, okay.
so going back to the conversation that maybe you were having with your friend or the men in my family, you know what? I know that everyone has gotten the look from someone. Usually it's a mom's look. And it's like, teachers have that look too. So for those of you who didn't see that, you've gotten the look before and you know that you're supposed to zip it. And so that could be what it is too, where it's just like, just don't say anything. I'm just going to keep smiling right now and let's just move on.
I have like 4 billion questions for you, but not enough time. I want to go back in time during this podcast and ask you a question about something you said. You call yourself gay and not lesbian. Can you walk us through that?
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for asking that question. So I am on the binary scale. I am more masculine presenting. I I have a short haircut. I don't like dresses. I don't like makeup. And so with that, I use the term gay instead of lesbian as a in my world as an area of privilege and power. So that if you see a girl and I'm gay, okay, I know what gay guys are. We'll just put her in that same basket. If I say that I'm a lesbian, truth be told, a lot of people, not everyone, maybe not you, Brad, but a lot of people, when they hear the term lesbian, they think about sex and they think about two women doing it in the bedroom. I don't want people to think that. I
Oh,
want people to think that I'm funny. That's it in a
okay. I
nutshell.
have never heard that before, but I get it. Lesbian brings up stuff you don't want people to think about.
For me, that's why I don't like the term
Does your wife refer to herself as gay or lesbian?
lesbian. And she is much more feminine looking than I am. I know. I know. I'm the Jack to her Jill.
But she has to deal with the same bias you're talking about. That if people hear the word lesbian, they're thinking about sexuality or
And
sex, I guess.
yes, and she also has the privilege of this will be new to your audience. She has the ability to pass. And so, what that means is that if you see my wife, you don't automatically think that she is a lesbian. She has short hair. She's cute. She wears dresses, makeup. But until you get to know her, she could pass as a straight white
I
woman.
get it. Well, that's fascinating.
I knew that that was going to be a little ear candy for you there.
Oh, well, I know that your wife is not a guest on the podcast, but still, that's so curious. So I would assume that being able to pass is a little bit like being a chameleon or a ninja. You just get to decide
And
how you
she
want.
did. And she worked in corporate America for a very, very long time. And she was able to pass. And she never had to talk about me unless she wanted to.
Okay, so but that begs the question. I think I know the answer because I was listening. But you have the ability to pass, right? You know how to grow. You would be able to make whatever changes you would. I don't know what you would change, but you right
Good question.
you mentioned your wife
So
wears dresses and makeup. You could wear dresses and makeup.
I could, and I choose not to. And I think that that is, that's part of then I, Lisa Koenecke, have to deal with getting called sir all the time.
Uh,
And so, right. And that's okay because that's who I am. This is how I am comfortable, presenting myself to the world. Now, I don't want to be a guy. I don't want surgery. However, I'm comfortable in my skin with short hair and the clothes that I wear. And it's very athletic for me. And so for passing, unless I tell you that if you look at me, a lot of people are going to be like, oh, yeah, totally gay. Um, and then what I usually do is to make people feel comfortable. I will talk about my wife, Angela, and use her pronouns. Now she has a female sounding name as well. And so I do that.
Well, the more I think about it, my question was asinine because if you were trying to pass, you wouldn't have all the superpowers that you have now.
This is true. And here is I am now waving my rainbow wand with my superpowers.
Oh,
Yes,
that
I'm
that
Lisa
is
Kay.
adorable.
You're everyday gay. Yes. And so, and it's interesting because, um, again, I'm 52. The millennials, the younger than that, even, they're going to be so much more fluid and non binary and, using different pronouns that you've never heard of, like je, jir, and jur. Um, then I'm still kind of traditional in the old gay guard, I guess.
You're doing good work. What? So here, let's just pretend this is your chance, which of course is silly because you're speaking all around the country. But what would you want everyone to hear, and would that message change if you're talking to a straight audience versus an LGBTQ plus audience?
The message that I would share would not change if it were a heteronormative audience or an LGBT friendly audience, which can be some of the same. The message is, again, I'm going to go back to be kind. I really want you to just be nice to people who are different than you, whether you don't understand their gender identity, their expression, their ability, their language. Just be nice. That's what it is, because that is going to save lives. If youth have one supportive adult, just one in their life, the suicide attempt rates go down by 40%, 40. So my message is, let's be lifesavers together. I love being a lifesaver. You can be a lifesaver. You can be a capital A ally instead of a small a ally, because you're going to be an advocate and stand up and save lives. That's my message, is let's just do this.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
One thing I didn't expect that you've used this language several times through the interview is saving lives. So in so many ways, you're not just inclusivity and diversity. It's suicide prevention. Am I right on that?
It is. It can be suicide prevention. It can be, my other explanation of saving lives is giving someone a chance. And so, whether it is trying to learn information, you can save a life by showing a rainbow, because the gays sniff that out. That is, I talk about that in my book. Number one is show that you're an ally. So you could have a rainbow sticker on your car and someone sees that, and then they have the courage to come out to whomever it is. Everyone has that power to save lives. And it's just knowing what to say, when to say. And if you mess up, it's okay. You just say, I'm sorry.
What do you mean, gay stiff out that rainbow? Like, so, yeah. What does that mean? So you see a car driving down the street with a rainbow on the bumper sticker?
I say yay gay. Yep.
Literally.
Absolutely.
Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean to you? Because you don't know me. We're probably not going to meet because we're in cars.
But I know that you're an ally, because now you may have a rainbow sticker on there because you're a preschool teacher and it's just cute. And that's wonderful. And then wouldn't it be fun to have this fun lady with short hair come up and say, hi, how are you? Whether you're gay or not, I'm not going to assume. That's none of my business. But I know that kids know that. Kids in school know that. So when I go to corporations, new staff know that. When I'm talking to credit unions, if you have even a little rainbow ribbon, which I give out at my presentations, on your lanyard, people know that you're a safe person to talk to. And it might not even be that they're gay, but their kid just came out to them, or a kid in their neighborhood is transitioning. So that's what's important. And I have my pronouns in my video windows right there. And that's me being an ally to the friends who are transgender. just to say, hey, I'm here. These are my pronouns. And you don't have to use your pronouns. I think in the next 5 years, it'll be way bigger than what it is now. But again, it's throwing a lifeline out there. Just look at you, Brad, being an ally, capital A ally.
I just
Yeah.
typed my pronouns into the video screen.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what it's all about.
I'm with you. That silences me thinking.
Oh, I know it is. That's great.
I wonder if you could react to this. I have a face mask that says Black Lives Matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I wore that all the time, closer to the George Floyd stuff and prior to the election. And now I kind of have it in my head, Lisa, that wearing that it's like sticking a stick into the ribs of the people that don't believe that. And I would like to wear it because I'd like to be an ally. But I also don't want to be ornery because I don't want to have a fight with somebody whose mind I'm not going to change. So I know that we're talking about BLM and not LGBTQ, but you are an ally, or this is something you advocate. What can you help me? Can you find a question in there somewhere? How do you react to that?
Yeah. Yeah. My reaction would be to go with your gut. Number one is I want people to be safe. I am never going to advocate that, you wear your BLM mask to somewhere where you are not safe and you're going to get beat up. That's number one. So there are times that I will not hold my wife's hand if we're in a scenario where, I don't want to deal with it. So, dear everyone listening, safety is number one. If you don't want to have that conversation or you're feeling threatened, then don't do it at that moment. The other thing to think about is that the issues and the causes that are coming up right now, there are going to be more that come forward. AAPI, Asian American and Pacific Islanders, and the hate that happened to them. We as a society need to look at ourselves and know that it's Pride Month is in June, but LGBT issues are 12 months out of the year, just like Black Lives Matter 12 months out of the year. So to answer your question, my friend, is to go with your gut. You're going to know that you're a good person, whether you're wearing your mask or not. And those who see it, you will have friends. And you may have people who are like, blah, blah, blah. And those are the people that you choose not to spend time with, in my opinion. That's what I would say.
Yeah, but really what struck me is you saying, oh, we gays we sniff those rainbows out.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me think if you're a person of color, you're going to sniff out a BLM thing.
You are. And honestly, I think that that's a great conversation to have with someone of color to speak, from that side of things, and then I also have friends who are police officers, and how do you weigh that with what's going on and what's not going on? And then it goes back to politics again, right? So I am way more liberal than I am conservative. So do I want to have that conversation with there's so much wrapped into that. And I think that it's little steps. And then we can win the marathon, even if we lose a sprint or two.
I'm so glad you said yes to this.
Oh, I am so glad that you asked me. Absolutely.
All right. So you got to spell your last name, because how are we going to find you?
LisaKoenecke.com. LisaKoe, N as in Nancy, ECKE.com. Or if Koenecke is too hard, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Inclusionally.com, and it just looks like Inclusionally.
Oh, fun, right. It does look like Inclusion Ally. Inclusion Ally is your LinkedIn.
I have two websites. So inclusionally.com will take you to LisaKoenecke.com.
Oh, good. And Koenecke, again, because I think this is important. Koenecke.
Correct.
All right. Well, you're a rock star. You're doing good work, and the world needs you. I feel like I'm a willing ally, but I'm not always a great ally. So I need you. Thank you so much for helping me with language and just helping me feel more familiar with it, and definitely that for our listeners.
Yeah.
Here you are making a difference. But I'm going to ask you the same question, Lisa, I ask every guest as we close. Lisa Koenecke, inclusion ally, rock star, expert with middle school youth. What gives you hope?
Actually, it is the youth that give me the hope. It is the kid growing up on a farm just like I did, who doesn't have to wait for their sister to tell them that they're gay, that they can be their true self and be proud of who they are, because they're going to solve problems that we haven't even, that don't even exist yet. So I am excited about the youth being their true selves and advocating for what's right.
Oh, I love that. That kind of implies it's going to get better each generation. Is that what you believe?
Oh, 100%. And it's interesting because thinking about, you made the comment of, well, Martin Luther King Jr. came in and now, civil rights is done. Check that box. Hasn't happened for racial equality. So we're still going to be doing this with gender equality, whether it's, binary, the women having the right to do what they want to do, versus trans students versus anything and everything. But I think that the more voice that the youth give to these issues, the better it's going to be.
That's me crossing my fingers.
That's
right.
right.
Lisa Koenecke, thank you for being a guest. I knew you were going to be good. I knew you were.
Well, Brad, thanks for having me. And this does, you are a capital A ally. You asked someone, you had no idea what I was going to say on here, and you were willing and open to ask questions, and that's what it's all about. Thank you.
It seems like I'm getting kudos when I don't deserve them. But
you do.
All right. Well, you're a rock star. I'm so glad to get to spend this time together and know you better. Everybody look her up. Oh, wait. And I didn't ask, how do we find these videos? You have short videos that you're putting out?
I do. I have my own YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, so it's not just my family members. So yeah, so you can go to YouTube and look me up, Lisa Koenecke, Koenecke, or be my friend on Facebook. And if you want to save lives, you could buy this little book, Be an Inclusion Ally, The ABCs of LGBTQ+. It is available anywhere books are sold. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, me.
Nice. Where would you prefer us to go to buy that book?
Whatever works for you. I am a big fan of buying local and small businesses, but I'm really just in Wisconsin and trying to get around there. So whatever works for you.
Well, you're a hoot and a gift, and I'm so glad to know you better. All right, stay with me, Lisa, just for a second. Everybody, keep washing your hands. Get that shot. And as Lisa said, it's about kindness. That seems easy, right? Be kind.